Welcome everyone. In the course of internal worth estimation for compensation, design or determination of wages, we have studied till now non-analytical methods of job evaluations, within which we have discussed about ranking method and job grading method. Now there comes your analytical method of job evaluation, within which we'll be discussing about factor comparison method and point comparison method. Now with factor comparison method, when we come across, we first identify certain factors which are responsible for any compensation package to be decided. Now, when we identify these factors being evaluated for each job profile, and then accordingly the worth of any job being estimated. Now, when we look forward for these factors, the factors which are used to determine the compensation of any individual are called compensable factors, or compensable factors are those factors which are responsible for determination of compensation of individual. Now, when we look forward for the dimension of factor comparison method, first, we need to discuss about compensable factors. So let's have look over these compensable factors. The first dimension of it is responsibilities. Each job, when it is being designed, possesses duties, responsibilities, authorities, performance, or we can say working conditions. So these are the dimensions of any job profile or job which an individual has to accomplish. Now this we have seen while we were designing about our job. So with respect to all those responsibilities which are available within the job profile, the person need to abide all these responsibility with the efficiency of receiving performance regarding the job related criteria. Now when the responsibilities are being adhered by individual while maintaining the performance, then the person need to be provided some or the other reward against these responsibilities. So responsibilities consisting all those tasks and duties within a job profile which an individual abide, defined by organization's policy, and for these responsibility the person being compensated. Another dimension which is available, that is the skills. To accomplish any kind of task, to fulfill all the duties within the job profile, individual need to have certain set of skills through which that person come across with providing contribution. Now when we look forward for skills dimension, we also come up with a knowledge dimension as well. So when we look forward for individuals competencies for which the person being selected, similarly for these competencies, when that individual contributes in the organization, the person must be compensated. So being considering competencies like knowledge, skills and ability, so all these three dimensions must be provided some or the other benefit or reward against the performances. So skill set are the technical efficiencies, are the skills of individual through which that person becomes expert, has got some expertise related to execution of tasks, need to get rewarded as a part of compensation. So that's why skills being part of compensable factors. Now another dimension with respect to compensable factor is knowledge. Knowledge is a set of information, set of experience which an individual has, set of implicit or explicit dimension of knowledge through which an individual executes any type of task which helps individual to perform the responsibilities, duties and tasks. Now, when we look forward for knowledge, one of the dimensions to quantify knowledge can be taken into account as this can be considered as the degrees being received by any individual. The educational qualification of any individual may be considered as one of the ingredient which is representing knowledge of individual. So now for the hard work which an individual has put over the attainment of such degrees, such knowledgeable, such education, the person must be compensated for that. And that person expertise being part under the knowledge itself. So that is the part of compensable factor. Another dimension of compensable factor that is called mental exertion, and the next is physical exertion. So these two dimensions are the inputs of any job profile related working condition, or we can say job profile related working criteria. Now, when we look forward for mental exertions, few jobs which require lots of intellectual as well as cognition while providing any kind of solution. So when we look forward for managerial level dimension, we identify that decision making, planning and strategy constructing, then implementing through the different people with different behavior, that is consisting lots of mental exertion in it. So to provide that mental exertion related reward to individual, these are being taken as a compensable factor. Another dimension is physical exertion. Few of the job within the organization possesses physical efforts where lots of hard work being required by them to produce to receive any kind of outcome under the job profile. So physical exertion is one of the factor under compensable factor. Now checking over both the dimensions, we can identify that there might have difference in terms of their worth with respect to different job profile available in the organization. So when we look forward for a managerial level, they might have lesser of physical exertion but more of mental exertion, whereas it may be opposite in case of a worker where the physical exertion may be higher and mental exertion is lesser. So according to the worth of different compensable factor, compensation package being decided or wage being determined, or we can say here the internal worth can be determined. Now with respect to our other factor, that is the working condition. Now individual working within any organization may possess different job profiles, and these job profiles may have different working conditions. Some of the job profile consists hazardous situation of performance. Some of the job profile consists conditions where the things are quite comfortable for the individual to execute. Now according to the hazardous, or we can say difficulty level of working condition available, they must have some weightage being given to the individual. Working condition possesses different dimensions, like when the hazardous situation is existing, there is a threat, or we can say there is a security concern, safety concern for the individual for taking risk of life, for going for risky situation of performance, or we can say working condition, the individual must be compensated accordingly. So for the conditions for the job profile where working conditions are not appropriate or not very favorable for health and different part of individual's life, so the person must be compensated for taking that particular risk. Another dimension for compensable factors, that is the seniority. As the individual stays with one organization, shows loyalty towards the organization, which we have considered as a part of our contribution while we were talking about compensation related matter, or we can say contribution made by an individual against the job profile or within the organization. So seniority, which is being available in many of the organization as a part of calculating someone's salary packages. Like simple example, if we go for defense services, individuals, even they are not appearing for the respective examinations or promotion, on the basis of their stay within the organization, they've been rewarded for some compensation against their seniority. So, or there are seniority based appraisal available to the individual within the organization. So these are the first dimension of factors within factor comparison method. Once we know that what are the compensable factors for which the individual need to be compensated, then we need to check how we can compensate. So as we see that there is a comparison existing between the factors, so how we can compare all these factors? We are going to compare these factors against different jobs. So each job consisting these factors with their respective worth are going to be compared, and the calculation of individual job worth is being estimated. Now, when we look forward for this, there is an example related to factor comparison method. We can simply identify that the chart depicts there are key jobs: electrician, filter, welder, cleaner, laborer. There are daily wages being provided to them. There are other, we can say, compensable factors like physical effort factor, mental effort, where we can say skills, responsibility, and working conditions. These are the dimensions which are available as a part of, we can say, factors of compensation. Now, when we look forward for this, we can read out the example with respect to factor comparison method. Suppose the job of a painter is found to be similar to electrician and skills 15, filter and mental efforts 10, welder and physical efforts 12, cleaner and responsibility 6, and labor in working condition. The wage rate for this job would be 47. So we can check this particular thing. The painter is found to be similar with electrician's skills. So electricians under the skills is providing 15 points. Similarly, we have filter in mental efforts. So for the filter, we can identify mental efforts are being 10. Then the cleaner and responsibilities, we can say cleaner and responsibilities being 6. Then welder and physical efforts are being 12, and then laborer in working condition, laborer under the working condition being 4. So after these calculation, we can identify the total being 47, and then on the basis of that we can calculate individual's point, and then that can be multiplied with the total amount which we can provide to any individual. So that is related to your factor comparison method, as we can simply identify that these factors being compared with respect to all these profiles with the other third, or we can say another profile which is available for painter within the organization. So what we can identify, the internal worth, we can have a comparison between all the individuals job profile which are available in the organization, and according to their presence and their worth in the organization, their weightage related to different factors, they are going to be compensated. This is related to factor comparison method. Now similarly, we have availability of our point comparison method, within which we come across with providing points to all those factors which are responsible for compensation to be paid. Now we can say each job's key factor is identified, and then sub factors are determined. These sub factors are then assigned the points by its importance. So when we look forward for advantages which is received through point method, we can identify that the point ranking method is less subjective and is an error free, as the rater sees the job from the all perspective. So we can identify that we are not only looking forward for the key factors, we are also dividing these key factors into sub factors, so that we can identify, like simple example, we have seen a knowledge factor. So knowledge can be divided into the educational dimension of individual. So these are the subdivision related to, we can say, our key factors. Now, within which, when we look forward for, we are looking at what are the different sub factors under the key factors. Then we are actually comprehensively looking forward for each dimensions of, we can say, factors. Then disadvantage, because when we are making it comprehensive, we are taking each sub factors into it. There are certain factors which may be subjective in nature, or we can say qualitative in nature. So these qualitative nature cannot be converted into quantitative terms, and this complexity is time consuming. That's why this has got certain disadvantages available. The detail we'll be discussing in the next lecture.